Hey friends, wanted to open a discussion around 3D printing licensing and why I feel it's important for us to understand the different levels of licensing, and how it also protects creators who might be taking a lot of time and leveraging some sort of proprietary mechanisms in their designs so that they're not being taken and redistributed and or sold without their authority. So we'll look at a couple websites. I'll share a little personal story, and maybe you'll learn a couple tips and tricks that you might not have known. Let's jump in. Here we are on Thingiverse, and I'm going to scroll down here towards the bottom of this really cool chess set to take a peek at the license. And you'll notice here that it's Creative Commons, Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives. And if we click on this link, it's going to take you to the creativecommons.org website, which is a broader conglomerate that creates the rules and regulations around creative use in general. And this spans farther than just 3D printing. But if we look down here towards the bottom, the key flag to be aware of is the no derivatives, which states here, you cannot remix, transform, or build upon the material. You may not distribute the modified material, etc. It's pretty clear. And also, I encourage you to take a peek at creativecommons.org, as there's a lot of other wonderful information on this site. Next, let's jump over to Thangs.com. This is a wonderful website that has a lot of premium models on it, and most of them are paid for. But you can still find some free models. And in this case, I came across this Advent Light tea house, and you'll notice here's the license. And if we click on View License, we're going to see something pretty similar to Thingiverse, where it's clearly called out in this case, no redistribution, no remixing, no commercial use of any kind, etc., etc. And again, this is the flag to really be aware of, and people are doing this on purpose. It's because they want to protect the design and or any sort of proprietary mechanisms that their design might encompass. Yet another great source is cults3d.com. And in this case, I found this cool scale railroad train car. And on the right-hand side here, you can see the license listed. So if we click on the license to see what its usage is, again, you'll notice private use, non-commercial, no modifications. So you might see a common theme here. And it's pretty common that you'll find that models that are pretty well refined and look to be of high quality are always going to retain this license. Nowadays, we also have a wonderful tool at our disposal, AI, and specifically ChatGPT. And you could ask it, as I did here, to explain the levels of 3D printing licenses in general, and it will give you a really great breakdown. And this is good for creators and consumers alike, so that they ensure that they're understanding clearly the usage implications behind the different license levels. When you're uploading a model to any of these 3D hosting sites, there's always an area that lets you configure your license. And here on Makerworld, for example, you can see when they're set to no, it's going to give you the standard digital license, which is the most protective. And if you start toggling these radials, it'll start applying the license as you see fit. However, there's another option that you can join their exclusive model program, which is pretty amazing because you get residuals and payouts depending on how many people download and like and boost your model. Once applied, this will give you the standard digital license, which again is the most protected. In addition, if you find anybody that is leveraging your model in an inappropriate way that violates the license, you can report it to Makerworld, and they will actually try and argue on your behalf to get those models removed. Here's my Makerworld homepage, and you'll notice I make various models that I generously give out and let people use for their own personal use. Now, some of my models are also open to remixing and recreation, and I myself have also remixed some of the other people's models when the license allowed it. However, the models that I have the standard digital license on are for a reason. And let's take a look at my Medieval Madness Pinball Goat, for example. So this one started out as a standard bolt-on bracket, but it didn't work very well because folks wanted to be able to take the mug off easily for cleaning. So I took a lot of time designing a removable dovetail slotted mechanism that kind of locks in place so that when it's mounted on the pinball machine, you can easily remove the mug and clean it and put it back on. And now this is the main reason why this model is protected, and any other pin gulp that I have on my Makerworld is protected as well, specifically because of that locking mechanism. Now, unfortunately, this brings me to the reality of the fact that a lot of people are just going to do what they're going to do. And I found an individual that was taking that dovetail design and essentially cutting it off my models and then applying it to their models and selling it for a profit. Here are just two examples of models that have taken my slotting design and simply applied them to their own. They're dead giveaways. You can see there's a notch in the recessed area like mine, and the radius on the top is identical. And this is a perfect example of a violation of the standard digital license, which prevents remixing of any kind. On their pinside page, you can see that this feature is discreetly called out as this new slide lock system, and notice they're getting $80 for this mug. So you might be wondering, how hard is it to do this? Well, it's actually really easy, especially depending on how you've created your models. In the case of my Medieval Madness mug, I made the mistake of combining the shapes inside of a slicer. And when you do that, anybody else can invert that and basically split them apart, as I just did there with that right-click menu. And bingo, look at that. To further this, let's say that I now wanted to leverage that isolated, wonderful slotting mechanism to make a new pin gulp. How about a Terminator 2 pin gulp? This one looks awesome. Now, I'm going to pretend I didn't see the standard digital license. We'll go ahead and download it. We'll bring it into our slicer, orient it correctly on the build plate, do some simple scaling, align the dovetail slot mount, add in a primitive, scale up the primitive, and slice the plate. And here we have our wonderful new Terminator 2 pin gulp, solely designed by me. Well, if you've hung in here that long, thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I hope that you learned a little bit about licensing. I know when I first got into 3D printing, it was something that I had to learn as well, and I wanted to ensure that I was really respecting the creators that are out there. A little short note too, I've been a designer for over 20 years, so I hold this in a very high regard as far as protecting individuals' intellectual property and their rights to their creations. And with that, I'd also like to share with you all my most recent pin gulp design. This was a lot of fun to make. It's in honor of Beetlejuice, which was recently released. And I really wanted to capture the kind of whimsical, kind of funky Tim Burton style in this mug. So it's kind of got this really interesting kind of tapered design. You can see, hopefully iconically, this is from the logo, the Beetlejuice logo here, this skull. You also have a skull on the mounting bracket, and the mounting bracket, as you can imagine, is very nice. It slides off and it slides back in, locks in place so that you can easily remove this from your machine. And it also has a removable insert, which is really cool because this is going to be available in a number of different colors, and it's also going to be available in glow in the dark. So not only can you remove the pin gulp itself from your machine, you can remove the insert that makes it really easy to clean. So I'll have this up on Pinside soon. I'll also have it on my Etsy. So if you want to support the original creator of this dovetail style design, I would be super grateful for you to consider purchasing this one, and I think it's going to look really amazing on that new Beetlejuice game because that thing is just gorgeous. Thank you all. Have fun. Keep making.